here lies Elizabeth Taylor, a cattlewoman, one of the few women in the West to get hung. Her bold actions took her brother down with her, and this is their sad end. Elizabeth Taylor and her husband, James Taylor, moved to Spring Ranch, Nebraska in 1872 from Missouri with their young son, Will. The cattle industry was starting to boom, and they decided to get in on the business and purchase some land here. Soon after Elizabeth and James moved to Nebraska, the rest of Elizabeth's family, including her brother Thomas, followed. Elizabeth had 2 other children while living in Spring Ranch, John and Maggie. Elizabeth was a very ambitious and determined woman. Elizabeth has more of a business mind than James, so in 1881, the Married Women's Property Act let her take the deeds so she was able to buy, sell, or dispose of the land.
It's different here with Elizabeth Taylor, and you get the sense that she was dealing with a husband who wasn't really all that great with business, and I'm sure she felt like she was at the end of her rope, that he wouldn't, take care of the cattle or the land as well as she felt she could. And by being a little too aggressive, she really did just really did go outside of those bounds of appropriate behavior.
Her husband died unexpectedly. That was not unusual for the times, Doctors couldn't diagnose what was wrong with people most of the time.
Soon after James's death, a well-known man in the community, Rees T. Rees, proposed to Elizabeth.
Then after Mrs. Taylor's husband died, a neighbor who must have been a particularly unpleasant type of person from the stories about him that have survived, wanted her to marry him, and she spurned him. Of course, he wanted to marry her because, being a widow, she owned property which he apparently wanted, and thought that she should marry him so he could have it.
Elizabeth continues to be a controversial figure in town, especially when several ranch hands die, mysteriously.
The neighbors started circulating a rumor that she'd killed her husband. And there was also a rumor circulated that they had killed a hired man.
Do you think Miss Taylor killed a farm hand?
I saw her with the potato book killer, and they ain't got many potatoes.
I bet she killed him.
Some years later, one of these hired men that was said to have disappeared, and they were accused, rumors that they had killed this hired man, that this guy reappeared. He hadn't been murdered at all.
In 1884, Elizabeth allowed Edwin Roberts, an immigrant new to the area, to use some of her land for grazing. In 1885, Roberts was seen by Will and John cutting wood on Elizabeth's property.
On March the 15th, 1885, a group of men appeared at the door of the Jones family Jones/Taylor family sod house and told them to come out or they were going to throw dynamite down the chimney. And so they came out and they took them to a bridge. I think it was because of jealousy primarily. She may have been an unpleasant person and a person that was difficult to get along with as far as being a neighbor is concerned. But that certainly does not justify murdering someone. And I actually think it was primarily jealousy.
The West was the land of opportunity, or so it seemed. In the 1800s, it was dangerous for women to behave too differently, to insist on managing the family business, or to refuse to marry. Was Elizabeth Taylor a criminal? Her real crime, it seems, is that she didn't behave like women of the era were expected to. And she paid the price,